It's easy to fool someone, but it's hard to convince someone they've been fooled. It's a great quote from Ernest Cline, who's the author of Ready Player One. Great book that they turned into an even more phenomenal movie. Actually, they're both phenomenal. Let's be real. Steven Spielberg, come on, we've all seen Ready Player One. And he was recently on an episode of Weaponize with Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. And it's kind of an on-location interview. They're in Austin, Texas. Okay, my old town. I spent 7 years there, ran a food truck there for 5+ years. I mean, it's I'm a Texan. I'm still in Texas. I grew up in Texas, y'all. So, look, I had to cover this. There's some really cool stuff in this interview, to be honest with you. And Ernest Cline really drops some, amazing things. He just kind of reveals some stuff he's been told. Just, his celebrity status has allowed him certain access, and he's just flying off the cuff, man. So, I mean, there's more in this interview that I'm going to cover, so I'm going to put a link in the description. Please go check out this interview. It's one of my favorite they've ever done on Weaponize. It could be it is my favorite episode they've ever done, to be honest with you. I loved it. Just relaxed. There's some cool shots of DeLoreans I'm going to show you guys just for fun at the end. But let's start with this first part here, this first clip, where he talks about this SantaSLE UFO, and it got me thinking about something. So we're going to watch that clip. I'm going to share an article to kind of back up what he said. So, super interesting. Y'all, if you're new to the channel and you like content like this, hit the subscribe button. We put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day, y'all. And, of course, hit that like button. That really helps us out. Thank y'all so much for the support there. And, of course, comment down below of what you think of Ernest Cline's comments here. He's going to talk about quite a few things. Real quick, I made a list. So we're going to go over this sort of SantaSLE UFO. He brings up the New York Times article 2017, and there's some interesting comments there about that, to be honest with you. And he gives this great summary of just where we are and about the UFO phenomena. I loved it. And then actually got a real special surprise at the end of the episode. They tease something pretty interesting that I've never heard of, which is George Knapp's UFO story. So his own personal UFO story. So, and then again, just some shots of these DeLoreans he has. This is just such a cool guy. So let's jump into this episode. Got it queued up. Again, this first one is going to be talking about SantaSLE. All right. A SantaSLE UFO. Pay attention.
Still, where's the New York Times? Sort of begrudgingly, still, yeah.
Oh, wait. Wrong clip. Hilarious. Okay, right here. Sorry.
Sometimes UFO interactions are like car crashes, people who have no interest in this. It's bam, they see a UFO, their jaws drop. But the people that really want to see them, I believe, Ernie, if you keep looking up and if you keep it in your mind, you want to, and you're not making it up, you're not seeing the ISS and making it up, you'll see something, man.
I shouldn't have to look up. I should have, the government should wheel them out into a showroom. All 12 of them. Apparently one of them looks like SantaSLE, and it's got ram horns on the underside.
You would have one in your garage in a week.
Oh, man. I would do that. I have to make do with pretend time machines and pretend spaceships when...
He's talking about his DeLoreans. So real quick. So this article right here, this is from Michael Schellenberger. This came out in 2023 in the summer, at the beginning of the summer in June. I'm going to put a link down in the description. I've covered this article a couple different times because there's one aspect of this article that has always fascinated me. And is what Ernest Cline just mentioned. Because when he mentioned that, it's near the end of the episode. I was like, what? SantaSLE? I never heard it described that way. And this is what he's talking about. So let me read this. Some of the same sources who shared information with Grush, as well as others, spoke to Public, which is the outlet that this article is on, about retrieved spacecraft that they say is in possession of the United States government. I know of at least 12 to 15 craft, said one person, who said they shared the information with Aero and Congress. Every 5 years, we get one or two recovered for one reason or another, from either a landing or that we catch, or they just crash. A different contractor said there were at least 4 morphologies, different structures. 6 were in good shape, 6 were not in good shape. There were cases where the craft landed and the occupants left the craft unoccupied. There have been high-level people, including generals, who have placed their hand on the craft, and I would have no reason to disbelieve them. This is where it gets interesting, y'all. One source described here, you know what? I'm going to highlight it here. One source described having seen 3 kinds of craft, including one shaped like a triangle and another that looked like a chopped up helicopter with the front bubble of a Huey helicopter, with the plastic windows or more like a deep sea submarine, with a thick piece of glass bubble shaped. And where the tail rudder should have been, it was a black egg-shaped pancake. And instead of landing gear, it had upside down ram's horns that went from the top to the bottom and rested on the ends of the horns. Right? Because let's watch this clip again. Let me see here. Hang on.
Should wheel them out into a showroom. All 12 of them. Apparently, one of them looks like SantaSLE, and it's got ram horns on the underside.
You would.
So it's the way he describes, like the ram horns underneath SantaSLE. See, I hadn't thought about it that way, you know. I thought about it like talons coming down, but it's the other way. It's the inverse, out like a SantaSLE. That's super interesting to me. I had never heard it described that way. It's almost like, again, who told him that, right? Because that's not out there that it's like that. And if you read that description, this is the only place this is out, is this article. This mention of the ram horns, it's nowhere else. And again, Ernest Cline in this interview drops a lot of like little nuggets. If you know a lot about kind of some of this stuff, you're just going to hear him say a lot of little things like, whoa, like expanding on stories you've heard here and there. Little bits, nothing, I mean, kind of big in some ways, right? Like this, because I don't know, it's just interesting. I mean, the way he describes it here, it just doesn't seem, I guess maybe he just got that description. That's how he imagined it, or someone told him like that. I just feel like he's definitely talked to some people. And to mention like SantaSLE, I feel like someone would have told him that. And that's just interesting. But I mean, he is a smart guy and he's very imaginative, so he could just be imagining it himself like that. But I found that fascinating, man, because it sort of just, right, confirms this. Not, I'm saying that that's it, but just like, has he spoken to some of these people or whatever? I don't know. Again, I had never heard it described that way, and now I can really imagine that UFO a lot better, you know, from the description. So anyway, let's go to the next clip here. This is going to be about the New York Times article. Okay, the New York Times article from 2017. Remember that? Started this whole thing for a lot of people anyway.
And still, where's the New York Times? Like, sort of begrudgingly, like, still, like.
But the New York George had this story before the New York Times. He was asked by Harry Reid not to break the story because he wasn't New York Times.
Yeah.
And then the New York Times fucked it up. They got it wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that part that they got it wrong, that's what's interesting about this is, see, if you don't know much about the back side of the New York Times article, is that Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have always stated that that article was wrong because they talked about ATIP, okay, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program that Lou Elizondo ran. They always said, at least that article states, that that was the program that studied UFOs. But Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have had multiple times, and George Knapp has even written books with these people, Colm Kelleher and James Lukatsky, okay. They ran a program before that called AWSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System something or other, right, program. And so their thought was, no, they got the article wrong, right? It should have been about AWSAP, and that's where the money went, and blah, blah, blah. You know, there was $22 million or something like that mentioned in the article. So that's what they always say, like, they got it wrong. And Luis Elizondo, Chris Mellon, right, the people in the article, they still claim, no, it's right. So there's just this odd divide there, right? What's interesting to me is, like, Jeremy Corbell and Luis Elizondo, have you ever seen them together? Show me a picture of Jeremy Corbell and Luis Elizondo in the same room. Or George Knapp. I think George Knapp has interviewed Luis Elizondo when he first came out. And then past that, never did. But I don't think I've ever seen a picture or anything of Jeremy Corbell and Luis Elizondo. Like, why haven't they done anything together? It's kind of interesting, right? Like, why hasn't Luis Elizondo been a guest on Jeremy Corbell's show? I don't know. I don't know. But it's just interesting about that New York Times article. So why did they print that then? Why wouldn't the New York Times, like, why did Leslie Kean, because he's basically saying Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal got that wrong. And again, those two writers as well also claim they did not get it wrong. They got it right. So it's like, what's going on? Why can't they get that correct? Now, Stephen Greenstreet has claimed in his article or his videos of late recently, kind of when he did his 180, right, that he sort of uncovered that they got that New York Times article wrong. He's always, claimed that he's the only one reporting on that and whatever. And it's interesting to watch for sure. I don't know. I think a lot of it just kind of like, it doesn't really matter. Like, do we have craft or not? I don't really care about the nonsense of this program, that program, Let's go to these places that David Grush is saying, and let's just find out once for all. But anyway, I've always just found that interesting about the New York Times article and the back and forth of that. Right. Again, never seen Jeremy Corbell interview Chris Mellon, right? Never seen them together. Why isn't Joe Rogan just had like this round table of UFO people? Luis Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Bob Lazar, right? Like, let's Dave Grush, get them all in a room together. Why don't they all get in a room together? Stephen Greer. If someone were ever able to put that together, this like 10-person round table, that would be the greatest video about UFOs ever made. To see that take place. And I'm sure there's some other names that should be there as well. But that kind of conversation, right? Why isn't that happening? I don't know. The odd little groups in the UFO researcher investigators, because they all claim different truths. And, it's just odd. I don't know. All right, let's go to the next clip here. Again, Ernest Cline is such a great... this guy just went off, man, in this interview. It was great. It was great to watch. So this is just, again, a good summary of like where we are in the UFO phenomena up to date.
So many levels of we're not alone. There are non-human intelligences here on Earth interacting with us. They have technology that's way far beyond us. We've got a bunch of it. We've been trying to figure it out for 60, 70 years and no luck. Like, we don't even know how to turn these things on. Like, or maybe we could turn a few of them on, but, all of that. But then, so how many levels of, also Roswell was real. And, our own government has been conducting a really intense psychological warfare campaign against its own citizens to keep this a secret. And it's been handed off to a new generation that is also like, yeah, we need to keep this a secret. So many levels of, but then you like, so we're not alone. We've got alien spacecraft that we've been reverse engineering and a bunch of their bodies on ice. What's the story with their DNA? What secrets did you uncover when you sequenced their DNA?
But so you're saying all these questions will come out like a Pandora's box?
I have all these questions right now.
Right,
man.
Listen to Ernest Cline. I got all these questions right now, man. Let's watch that again because that is just too funny.
DNA.
But so you're saying all these questions will come out like a Pandora's box?
I have all these questions right now.
Right, but
I agree, Ernest. Yes, Mr. Klein, you are correct, sir. Yeah, man, that's where we're all at, right? Like, what's going on? Let's go. Because it's like there is no one truth, right? What would even be the odds of that? Doesn't even make sense. There are multiple truths happening all at once, meaning there's psychological warfare, some sort of disinformation campaign from our government. We have craft recovered. How many, whatever. I mean, at least I think we do, right? And there's UFOs flying around, some potentially our own that we've reverse engineered, and the actual extraterrestrials. And they may be from multiple origins, right? And there's different types. There's a lot of truths happening at one time, and different events that our government, right? Different fights, and we may have agreements with some of these beings. There's just a lot going on. You got different sects within the government doing different things, right? Private aerospace, right? It's just so many different truths happening, and there's also people just crazy trying to attach themselves to this, just making stuff up, just absolutely making stuff up, no question, because anything, it's a magnet. It's going to attract all kinds of different people, and you got people trying to tell the truth mixed in with people who are just lying and whatever. And that's why it's so important to try to sift those people out of the way, man, and just like use your gut a lot of it, right off the bat. At least let that be your first indication to, look into it further, right? I'm not saying you need to dismiss it, but at least have your guard up, right? So much stuff comes out that like just smells fishy immediately. You should be okay to recognize that and, look further into it, and then, put it on the back burner if you want. But there's a lot of things happening that we should be focusing on, in my opinion, again, that have the most promise for bringing us the truth, right? Whatever that truth is. And when I say truth, I just mean encompassing all of those truths I mentioned before, right? Just that there's a lot happening, right, at once. Because this idea that there's just nothing going on, again, it's just nonsense. There's something going on. I'm not saying it's aliens, but something. Clearly something is going on. You got foreign tech, our own advanced tech, right? You mix all that together. You got society and just how it handles things, and just people, just our own psychological stresses and how that can influence events and memory. And it's just so much. So, this sort of candid discussion was really great, honestly, to watch and just see three dudes talking about UFOs. At the end of the day, that's kind of the best discussion to have, in my opinion, with your friends, right? So this part is interesting, okay? This is going to be, I never heard this before, so y'all tell me. Again, this is talking about George Knapp's UFO story here.
It's like one of the most famous cases.
I'm going to have to tell you this, my story.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to hear it.
He just said that part, at least on camera. I have to tell you my story. That means George Knapp has a UFO story. The intrigue. This is, you know what? We got a call right now.
President.
The red phone.
George Knapp has almost told his personal UFO story. Beware.
Man, that's awesome.
So he doesn't actually tell the story, but that, I'm assuming that's going to be coming up soon at some point on an episode of Weaponize. So that'll be interesting to hear what that story is. I personally, I know some people in the comments have wondered. I've mentioned it before on other videos, but again, if you're new to the channel, we've blown up quite a bit recently. So again, thank y'all for all the support. I have personally never had an experience. I don't know if that, hurts me or helps. I don't know. Just it is what it is. I haven't had it. I've seen things, but I've been able to, clearly see what it is. So kind of disappointingly, to be honest with you, because I've wanted to see a UFO, right? Something crazy. But then I'm like, damn it, it's this or it's that, But yeah, I've totally wanted to, but I haven't. So I'm open, guys. Come visit me. Let's go. Look at this, man. Dude's got 2 DeLoreans, not just one, but 2 that work. You could drive them. Look at this one. It's got what's his name? R2-D2 in the back. So cool, man. So yeah, let's take a look at that. He kind of just talks about it. I just figured this would be kind of fun to end on this here.
This is my double DeLorean garage. The days.
One was not enough.
No. Well, that's the story. I always wanted to own a DeLorean. I saw one at a science museum in Columbus when I was 13 called COSI, the Center of Science and Industry, and they had one on display, and it was the car of the future back in like 1981 or 82, and that was even before Back to the Future came out. I saw this car and fell in love with it, and then Back to the Future came out, and one of my favorite movies of all time. And then it was, a time machine, and then I always wanted to own one. And so when I sold Ready Player One and sold the movie rights to Warner Brothers, I bought a DeLorean and started transforming it into a time machine. The time machine in my book is a mashup of these 4 vehicles that I loved growing up. The Back to the Future DeLorean, the Ghostbusters Ectomobile, the jet car from The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, and KITT, the Knight Industries 2000 from Knight Rider. The protagonist in my book mashes all 4 of these vehicles up and creates Ecto 88, a combination of all 4 of them. And then that's the car that ended up getting featured in the movie when it got made. They had to take off the Ghostbusters logos. I don't know if you can see if you lower the door. This is a 1981 DeLorean. They only made him 2 years, and this is a 1982. And this one,
So cool.
Let me see if I can get our
Dude, it's so low to the ground when you get it. Like, I can't even imagine. These both drive.
They were both
so low to the
It's
ground.
professionally lowered, that one.
It was.
Yeah. I have a kit scanner here built into the...
So 2 questions. One is,
Yes.
do your ghost traps, do they work?
Oh, yeah.
Because my mind is haunted.
Who have I had signed? Well, I would like you guys to sign it if you can find a spot. It's kind of hard if you find a spot in the black area.
We got to stay here one time because he invited us to stay here, and we could.
So yeah, there's Jeremy Corbell. Listen, y'all. Yeah, this was a fun episode, man. I gotta admit, it was just a fun episode listening to Ernest Cline. Big fan of his books. Big fan of, he's a Texan now too. He lives in Austin, Texas, and yeah, I don't know why I never interviewed him on my other podcast, Lone Star Plate. I'm sure maybe we tried to reach out. I don't know, because I just interviewed like celebrities from Texas. So why wouldn't I have had him on from Austin? I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, yeah, Ernest Cline, man, it's a great interview. Again, I'll put a link down in the description. Check it out, and curious what y'all think. Again, he drops a lot of other, sort of just bombshell details about a lot of different things and a lot of different people and conversations he's had, and again, access he's had. He talks about Spielberg, all kinds of stuff. It's very interesting. He's just a fun guy. It was a great conversation. I think Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp should do more interviews like this, kind of like that, off the cuff, just sort of sitting on a couch, just shooting the shit. I thought it was really cool, especially with people like that. It's interesting to hear their perspective on things. So anyway, hope y'all enjoy the episode. If you watched this far and you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, y'all, please. Again, new videos every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Don't forget to comment down below of what you think about this SantaSLE UFO, it being described that way, right? Wow, is Santa an alien? I don't know. All right, y'all. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Remember, Vetters, every day's a gift. Peace.